A first look at the FlyBear FX9706 SBACH 342 Brushless Sub-250g plane. Alright, so first let's talk about what comes in the box. Of course, the plane comes in the box. Everything is bolted together, doesn't use any glue. I did apply a little bit of glue where the vertical stabilizer attaches to it, had a little bit of play in it, and I wanted to stiffen that up. So I did put a little bit of glue in that area and along the seam where the horizontal stabilizer is, just so it didn't shift back and forth. And that seemed to work out just fine. But it comes with a spare prop. It's a 6-inch prop. I don't know what the pitch is. It looks like it's somewhere between a 6x3 to a 6x5 prop. It might be a 6x4, 6x4.5. I'm not sure, but it is a 6-inch prop. The motor shaft has a hole in the center. It uses an Allen wrench to attach the spinner. It has a lock nut that goes on the threaded shaft on the motor. It looks like the motor is a standard multi-rotor motor. It looks like a 5mm shaft. Because I took the spare prop, it comes with a spare prop, and I put it on one of my multi-rotor motors that has a 5mm shaft, and it went on there just fine. So it's nice that it's not using a proprietary prop. So I'll be testing some additional props on this on down the road. But you get the Allen wrench, you get a screwdriver, you get all the bits and pieces, the screws to put everything together. You get a 2S LiPo balance charger that uses a USB port. And the cowling on the front, it just snaps in. It's got a foam tab in the back. And then it's got two plastic snap pins in the front. And so that works out fine. I got the bind and fly, and this is courtesy of Banggood. I thank them much for sending this for review. This is going to be another keeper as far as sub-250g brushless planes. I'll let you in on a little secret. I've already conducted the first flight session with it in 6G and 3D mode. It's a fantastic flying little plane, and it is definitely a keeper. I'll be working on getting the videos edited and ready for upload this weekend, so look for the flight videos next week. But my all-up weight on this plane with the stock LiPo, which is I think it's a 2S, yeah, it's a 2S 650mAh 20C LiPo. I didn't weigh the LiPo separately, but I assume it's probably about 34 or 35 grams. But the all-up weight on this with the landing gear on it was 198 grams, so it's actually sub 200 gram. So it's very light, I think, for its weight. The landing gear, it seems like it has a fairly decent landing gear. They roll fairly smoothly. I didn't have any problems landing it out there in the desert. So I had them send me the bind and fly version. There's a ready to fly and a bind and fly version. And I had them send me the bind and fly version because I didn't want to have to dispose of another, toy transmitter. So I don't know all the different types of external receivers that you can use on this plane, but there wasn't any documentation. I got the information from Banggood because I got the bind and fly version, and what it talks about is that, in the documentation it was talking about the Futaba protocol. So I thought that the internal protocol on this board must be using the Futaba protocol. Well, that turned out not to be correct. At least I couldn't bind to it with my multi-protocol transmitter using the Futaba protocol, and I tried many different protocols to try and bind to this plane, and I could not bind to it. But there are two open ports on the board, and I'll put a picture up on the screen. One of the ports you can attach an external SBUS receiver to. I did put a multimeter on those pins, and it is supplying 5 volts of power. I tested the other connector too, the open connector, and it was putting out 5.5 volts. But if you look at the picture, it shows you I have a RadioLink R8 FM receiver attached to that port. Once I bound up to the RadioLink receiver, it was good to go. I had, the plane bound up to it with the external receiver. So I think as long as you have an external SBUS or PPM receiver that you can bind to with your transmitter, I think you're going to be good to go as long as it can use 5 volts of power. So, you know, I set it up with the RadioLink external receiver. I did the RF frequency tuning, I did the range check tested okay. I tested my failsafe setup, it worked okay. I didn't have any documentation on the gyro for setting it up for 6G and 3D mode, but it does look like it uses channel 5 like most of these receivers do. These gyros use channel 5 for their 6G 3D mode. So I set my transmitter up that way. I tested it, and it's one of those deals where it doesn't start correcting the control surfaces until you actuate the throttle. So once you actuate the throttle, you'll see the control surfaces moving when it's in 6G mode and in 3D mode. But it does have some mixing with the rudder and the aileron in 6G mode. You don't get a lot of aileron movement in 6G mode. Most of my turn authority is coming from the rudder, so I just want to make you aware of that. But it was super stable in 6G mode. I didn't have any problems with it. It looked like the gyro was rock solid. It was easy to fly. There were a couple times where I made a pretty sharp turn with it with a lot of rudder, and I got very slow, and the gyro managed to keep it in the air. Now, if I had been flying it in manual mode, when I got that slow, turning that hard, I'm sure it would have dropped a wing on me. But it was super stable, and this plane has a really good, easy to use 3D mode. I was really concerned about that. But when I post my videos next week, my flight videos, the first video will be strictly in 6G mode, and then the second flight video that I post will be in 3D mode. But it has it has really, really good power. It pulls vertical very, very well. You'll be able to perform any aerobatic maneuvers with it that you want to. So for me, this plane is definitely going to be a keeper. I think when you watch the flight videos, you'll understand why I say that this plane is a keeper. I hope in the future we are able to purchase a lot more of these sub 250 gram brushless planes that fly like this. So I'll be putting a list together pretty soon on my favorite sub 250 gram brushless aircraft. So some of them maybe you're aware of, some of them maybe you're not aware of. But this is it's an EPP foam. It's the most durable foam that I've ever come across. The wingspan is 550 millimeters. The length is 580 millimeters. It has a 2205 brushless motor. I do not know what the kV of that motor is, but it's spinning that 6-inch prop fast enough. It's got plenty of power and pulls vertical very well. Comes with the 2S 650 milliamp hour, 20C LiPo. I also flew it with some additional 2S 650 milliamp hour 30C LiPos that I had, so I know I've got at least 3 battery packs that will work in this plane. I'll have to see if I can find more that will work for it. Says remote control distance is greater than or equal to 300 meters. It gets really small, you know, when you get out 150, 200 meters. So just a fantastic little plane. It does come with a little manual that's not real informative, but everything is bolted together. You know, there's no guesswork in putting it together. The only guesswork for me was setting up the gyro and setting up the 6G mode programming and figuring out how to connect an external receiver to it. So far I'm really, really happy with my setup, the way it's handling, the way it's flying. So next week on our Facebook page, I will try to post that information next week on our Facebook page with my setup, how I've got my linkage all connected, my dual rate, the amount of movement on the control surfaces, expo, launch throttle, all that kind of stuff. So stay tuned for that too. I'll provide that in a PDF format for you to download. All right, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the air.